Several years ago, Palestinians asked the ICC to investigate Israel for war crimes. Last month, judges decided they had jurisdiction over the area known as the West Bank and Gaza. Fatou Bensouda, the prosecutor driving this investigation, focuses on the 2014 Gaza war. While she calls out Hamas for crimes such as attacking Israeli civilians and using its own people as human shields, Bensouda also charges Israel responded too strongly, leaving dead and wounded Palestinians in its wake. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu slammed the prosecutor's decision.
I think this is an outrageous decision that goes against the one democracy in the Middle East, Israel, whose soldiers honorably and scrupulously do everything to avoid civilian casualties as they're fighting the worst terrorists on earth. This is pure anti-Semitism.
The prosecutor also expands her charges to the so-called occupied territories, which refers to Israeli communities in Judea and Samaria and eastern Jerusalem.
I'm in Jerusalem, not very far from the old city of Jerusalem, which has been our capital since the time of King David for 3,000 years. They say that if we build a house in Jerusalem, that's a war crime. The ICC, the International Court, was built to prevent the kind of horrors that were committed on the Jewish people by the Nazis, and now they're turning their guns on the one and only state of the Jewish people.
Hamas welcomed the decision as a step forward to implement justice.
Hamas stresses clearly and decisively that the resistance by our Palestinian people and all the resistance by the national factions in Palestine are a legitimate resistance, and its natural role is to resist the occupation and restore the land and the holy places according to all international laws.
Defense Minister Benny Gantz, who could also be a target of the investigations, says the ICC probe rewards terrorism and terror organizations.
Israel is the only situation where the court is investigating a non-member state at the behest of a member, the Palestinian Authority, which is not a state.
International law expert Eugene Kontorovich says regardless of any decision against Israelis, the court has no enforcement authority. He adds, however, the impact would be on the world stage.
What this really is about is the Palestinians seeking to establish the fact of their statehood and their maximalist borders outside of negotiations. So the Palestinians, they don't need anything else to happen for them to have already won.
Kontorovich says, bottom line, Israel should not even address the charges since the court has no jurisdiction over it.
But Israel should definitely ignore it. It should treat it as a hostile political entity.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.